Mother effing Steven Seagal. Everything about this man just yuck, just yuck. I'm a big MMA fan. I never really had much of an opinion about Steven Seagal until a few years ago when he started hanging around backstage at UFC events, trying to make friends with all the fighters. Eventually he somehow became a part of the middleweight champion Anderson Silva's entourage, and was seen with him and his teammate Lyoto Machida all the time. Whenever Silva or Machida would finish their opponents, Seagal would be very vocal about how he taught them that setup or that technique, etc. But the moves Silva was using were generally just traditional MMA/Muay Thai techniques that he had been doing for years, and it seemed unlikely that Seagal, who was an Aikido practitioner, which isn't really a striking art, and new to the MMA world, was teaching him this stuff. Then a video came out which showed Silva and his team making fun of Seagal when he wasn't around. From what I gather, Silva, who has always been a jokester, most likely brought Seagal in to humor him and to make people scratch their heads about how involved he actually was. Not too long after that, Seagal and Silva seemed to have parted ways, and he was seen trying to attach himself to other fighters at UFC events. One time he was seen talking to former HW champ Daniel Cormier, offering to show him some secret move before his fight. Cormier, obviously just humoring him, asked to see what it was. Seagal turned to the camera and said it had to be turned off before he would proceed, because it was secret. The whole thing was really bizarre. My guess is that Seagal, who was no longer a huge action star, was doing anything he could to get his name/face in the public eye. It all seemed very desperate and gross. Jeffree Star. I will never understand why people ignored his past and bought his makeup. He's always been the same since his MySpace days. And continue to shows he won't change. Edit. For those who ask what he did. Here's a link for it. Something creeps me out about him to no end. His face is so robotic. He seems like a completely self-absorbed, remorseless, money-hungry person with no morals or values. Drake. Something about the bitch just rubs me the wrong way. Don't know what it is. I think he's going to be the R. Kelly of our generation. He hangs around with tween girls, doesn't he? I'm pretty sure there's footage floating around of him kissing an underage fan at one of his concerts. Then he also had this really bizarre friendship with Millie Bobby Brown. As far as I know nothing happened, but I do find it weird considering that Millie's like 15 or 16 and Drake's a grown-ass man who wouldn't have a reason to reach out to her in the first place. If more stuff like that comes out about Drake I wouldn't be surprised. James Franco. Nearly a decade or so ago, a friend of my ex-girlfriend's who worked in the modeling industry claimed she went out with him a couple of times while he was in London, but she said she had to be really hush-hush about it because she was 17. We thought it was kinda cool at the time and never really thought too much about exactly why a 32-year-old dude might not want people knowing he was dating a 17-year-old. With the benefit of age and hindsight I'm almost certain that guy has some pretty questionable relationships behind him. Edit, a word. He has been caught trying to sleep with multiple underage girls. Some being 15. David Dobrik. I haven't watched any of his vlogs but he keeps showing up everywhere. I hate his cheesy smile. He's like a 24-year-old 4-year-old. He actually explained why his smile is like that in a video, going undercover on social media and answering FAQs. He says it's because back in high school, he used to be really insecure about his teeth. So, every time he'd smile, he would stick his tongue out a bit to cover his bottom teeth, and now it's just a habit. Yeah, every facial expression is too standard, it's like a base template, too uniform to be real. Look, I'm going to be controversial and say Gary Oldman. Not because I have a specific bad feeling, but just because the guy could play any role, and you'd never know. He could probably play a teenage girl with magical powers and be convincing. Gary Oldman is my favorite actor and I completely agree. Also, this made me crack up laughing. Son, I have confession to make. While it is true that I am your father, it is also true that I am Gary Oldman. The famous actor. I don't know why I choose to keep it from you. It's probably because I can. I'm also the wife of a guy up the street. So, be thankful that the relationship wasn't sexual. Anyway, I'm gonna be moving on now. Good luck with all the mental scarring. I agree with your comment about him being able to play anything/anyone and that is spooky. However, I was an extra on his film Nil by Mouth and he is truly a good guy, sharing his cigarettes with everyone, talking to everyone with equal respect and dignity. He really was a nice guy, Surprisingly camp in real life. Ellen DeGeneres. I used to love her show, but when I got older I tried watching her show again and got freaked out by her eyes. Her mouth smiles but her eyes says death. Wasn't surprised when all the news of her came out a couple of years ago. I had a hospital test which took a couple of hours. My wife was waiting for me and she found that watching Ellen DeGeneres with no sound is particularly disturbing, like she's gleefully evil. I always got that super disingenuous vibe from her. All those stories of her treating people like dirt and awkward celebrity interviews sure confirmed it. Came here to say this. For some reason I've always got the wrong vibes from her and never understood why she was so loved. She's incredibly rude and makes her guests feel uncomfortable by making them do or address things they clearly don't want to. In the beginning she would force a smile, but for the past few years she no longer cared to try and laugh at any jokes made by her guests. Almost to the point where it seemed like she deliberately wanted to make it known she wasn't a fan of them. While I don't wish the downfall on anybody, this was a long time coming. Elon Musk. Read an article about him written by his ex-wife, and he came off as creepy and narcissistic. I think the most alarming thing about Elon is that he lost a child, and it was like it never even happened, and belittled his wife for her grief. You needed an article by his ex to parse that out? He literally said to his ex-wife, "I am the alpha in this relationship." The part that stuck with me from that article is that he pushed her to dye her hair blonde. I've noticed that in every relationship he's had, his partner either has blonde hair, or slowly transitions to super blonde hair. Was just reminded of this the other day when his current girlfriend, Grimes, posted a photo with platinum hair. The first time they made an appearance as a couple, her hair was black. Mr. Tumble. Real name Justin something over here in the UK. Very popular children's entertainer. I seem to be one of the very few people who get a creepy, Jimmy Savile kind of vibe from him. People feel so strongly about him, admitting you aren't a fan seems akin to admitting you ate a puppy for breakfast. Also, Peppa Pig needs to be made into sausages, but that's another story. Also from the UK, Noel Edmonds. That man radiates something bad. I don't reckon he's a pedo or anything. He just strikes me as someone whose skeletons aren't so much in the closet as in shallow graves. Mate, I am 100% with you on Justin. Mr. Tumble is just one of his many characters, and they are all creepy as fuck, but not as creepy as he is when he's being himself. My little girl really likes his show, but I'm definitely making sure she never goes to any live shows or anything. Did you ever see the show Happy on Netflix? He reminds me very much of the character, Sunny Shine. Mark Zuckerberg, his cold stare unsettles me. You can't sneak up on the Zuck, I don't even fucking blink. I'm the CEO of Knowing What You Think, Incorporated.